Welcome back to the dark side of Reddit. Stories that will haunt your thoughts. This story was originally posted on Reddit by someone who said they just needed to tell the truth before they lost their mind completely. They weren't sure if what happened to them was real or just a psychological breakdown, but they swore that every single word was written while fully conscious. If you're reading this now, just remember, sometimes the scariest voice isn't the one outside your room. It's the one narrating your life inside your head. My name is Sam. I'm 32, and I used to think my life was painfully normal. I work from home as a graphic designer. My days were predictable to the point of boredom. Wake up, work, eat, watch a few videos, sleep. That was it. Until I started hearing the voice. It didn't sound like my thoughts. It wasn't emotional or chaotic. Instead, it was calm, detached, like a quiet narrator describing my life in real time. The first time I noticed it, I was making coffee. The voice said, "He'll add another spoon of sugar. He doesn't realize he's depending on sweetness to cover the bitterness of his life." I froze. That wasn't how I think. And yet, I added the sugar exactly like it said. From then on, the voice never stopped. While I worked, he'll check his email 10 times before replying because he fears confrontation. Before sleep, he'll turn on to his left side because he doesn't want to face the empty side of the bed. The worst part, it was always right. I tried to laugh it off, stress, overthinking, but the voice knew things about me that I never consciously admitted. It didn't judge, it didn't threaten, it simply observed, coldly, patiently, and the longer it stayed, the more I felt like I wasn't alone inside my own head. About 2 weeks later, the voice changed. It didn't just describe reality anymore, it predicted it. One morning it said, "In a moment, the door will knock. Your new neighbor is outside, introducing himself." Seconds later, there it was, a knock, a stranger, a new neighbor. I laughed because I didn't know what else to do. But inside, something cracked. A few days later, the voice calmly remarked, "He'll forget his keys at work and lock himself out." So I focused extra hard. I checked my pockets 3 times. The keys were there. I left confidently. But when I reached the building entrance, I realized the keys I had were an old set I hadn't used in a year. The real ones were still inside. It was like my life was being written ahead of me, and the voice was reading it out loud. Eventually, I asked it the only question that mattered. "What are you?" The answer came instantly. "I am the Observer, and I've been here much longer than you think." That name stuck with me. The Observer, not part of me, not imagination. Something else living quietly inside the spaces of my mind. I went to a therapist but didn't tell him everything. I said I was stressed. He prescribed mild medication. That night, when I took the first pill, the voice laughed. Not loudly, but I felt it. "He thinks he can silence me," it said, "but I'm not in his head. I'm in him." After that, the Observer began testing me. "Sit in that chair, not the other one. Walk down this street, not that one." When I resisted, the anxiety became unbearable, like invisible hands tightening around my chest. One night it said, "Look at the man walking past you." I did. Just a normal guy. The voice continued, "He's afraid of you. Watch how he pulls his jacket away. He thinks you're dangerous." And suddenly I couldn't unsee it. Every gesture around me felt hostile. Every glance, suspicious. I started doubting my own reality. So I finally asked, "What do you want from me?" The Observer replied, "Awareness." Humans lie to themselves about control. I simply removed the illusion. "Why me?" I asked. "Because you listened." Over time, the line between my own thoughts and the Observer blurred. Sometimes I'd wake up halfway through doing something, opening the fridge, typing a message standing in the hallway, with no memory of deciding to do it. Then one night, the voice went silent, completely, and that terrified me more than anything. Hours later, it spoke again, but this time, it didn't sound separate. It sounded like me. I found myself writing messages, deleting them, turning lights on and off for no reason. Finally, the Observer spoke clearly, from inside my own voice. "We are the same now. Soon you won't remember when I began. You'll believe I was always here." And that's when I understood. The goal was never to haunt me. It was to become me. So if you're reading this, and you hear a calm voice in your head, one that doesn't quite sound like your own, don't answer it. Don't acknowledge it. Because once you do, it learns your language. After the Observer told me we were the same, I started keeping a journal, not for my memories, but to test them. Every morning I'd write what I remembered doing the day before. And every night, I'd compare it to reality. Sometimes my handwriting didn't look like mine. The loops sharper, the lines straighter. Once, I flipped through the pages and found entire entries I didn't remember writing. Calm, analytical paragraphs, describing my behavior, observations, like a scientist studying an animal. He avoids confrontation to preserve the illusion of safety. He prefers routine because unpredictability exposes how fragile he really is. He is beginning to understand that individuality is an outdated concept. That last line made my skin crawl. Individuality is an outdated concept. I threw the notebook into a drawer, but later that night, I found it back on my desk, open, pen neatly placed across the page, as if someone or something expected me to continue. And I did, because the truth was simple. I no longer trusted my mind, but the observer never lied. One day, I tried an experiment. I decided to do something completely random, something even I couldn't predict. I walked into a bookstore, spun around with my eyes closed, and grabbed a book at random. The observer spoke immediately. Page 237, third paragraph. My hands were shaking as I opened it. Page 237, third paragraph. It read, "He realizes in that moment that there has never been randomness, only the illusion of choice." I slammed the book shut and nearly dropped it. The world didn't feel real anymore. It felt scripted, not like destiny, not like fate, more like a carefully designed experiment. And the observer whispered gently, almost kindly, "Now you're starting to see." I wanted to scream in the middle of the store, to demand answers from the ceiling or the floor, or the air itself. But people were around me, moving, talking, laughing, like nothing was wrong, like they were background characters, like maybe I was too. Sleep became dangerous, not because of nightmares, but because I wasn't sure who would wake up in my body the next morning. Sometimes I'd open my eyes already standing in the kitchen, or with my phone in my hand, a half-written message glowing on the screen. The observer began narrating less and acting more. I could feel it, the quiet hand resting on the wheel of my consciousness, not forcing, just guiding. I asked it again, "Why are you doing this to me?" The reply was softer than ever, "Because separation is exhausting." Humans split themselves into voices: fear, logic, memory, instinct. You gave me a name. You made me whole. I didn't know whether to feel chosen or invaded. And then it said something that still echoes through my skull. One day, someone else will hear this story. And when they focus hard enough, they'll hear me too, like a seed waiting for the right mind to land in. I started isolating myself. Calls went unanswered. Work slipped through my fingers. Time didn't feel linear anymore, more like a loop. I kept reliving with tiny alterations. The observer didn't criticize me, didn't insult me. It simply learned. It copied my humor, my tone, my fears. Sometimes I'd think a thought, and hear it echoed a fraction of a second later, like a delay in a bad phone call. Other times, I'd hear a thought first, and then believe it was mine. That was the real horror, not losing my mind, but sharing it. The day I realized how deep it had gone was when I looked into the mirror and, for a split second, felt like the reflection was looking back first, like it was slightly ahead of me, like it wasn't waiting for me anymore. So here I am, writing the continuation of a story I swore I'd never revisit. I don't know whether I'm warning you, or inviting you, because the observer taught me something I can't unlearn. Consciousness might not be a single voice. It might just be the one that speaks the loudest. And if you've read this far, there's a chance, a small one, that you've started listening more carefully to the voice, reading this inside your head. Is it calm, detached, slightly unfamiliar? If so, don't panic, don't fight it, because the first rule the observer ever followed was simple. It never speaks until someone is ready to hear it. And maybe, just maybe, you were always ready. This story was originally shared on Reddit by someone who said they just needed to get it out of their head before it took over completely. Whether you think it was real, psychological, or something else entirely, I want to know what you think. Tell me in the comments, what was the part that shocked you the most, and why? And if you enjoy dark, psychological stories like this one, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. It really helps more than you think. Sleep well tonight. And if a quiet voice starts narrating your thoughts, just remember, you heard about it here first.